Okay, I'm back again. um, Trying to get this thing working. Sent you a link there again, Matt. So just waiting for that to populate up again. So I thought this thing would be a lot easier to do. It seems to be very fiddly. You shouldn't have to do it on phone, Matt. No. Although John did last week. You shouldn't have to. No. It's just a video chat. But maybe you might be better off going on your phone, Matt. Um, Sorry for the dead time. Not a bit professional, as I've said before, but hopefully when we get down to the actual chat of it, we'll be doing something entertaining for you lads and lassies. It's not even showing Matt as a viewer. Yeah. Well, Anthony, if Matt has a Mac, Mac is the root of all evil. So that wouldn't surprise me if there's problems because of a Mac situation. Okay. Yeah, sent you another invite, Matt. Are you on your phone? Ah, fingers crossed. Finally. Hey!
Right. For some reason, it doesn't come through on PC. It seems to be a phone thing.
Yeah.
Brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, to be honest, it's a bit messy. If it would be so much easier to do it on other platforms, but I was just trying to keep this on Facebook and keep it homogenous with all the other ways we connect with people, the way I connect with people anyway from the martial arts world. So, how are you?
Yeah, not bad, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Been a
Beside all the
while, hasn't it?
disaster, yeah, it has been a while. Been a while since we actually spoke. Apart from text and that, but yeah, it's good to see you. You're a big ugly mug. I was telling people earlier on, I was held up because I was doing garden gate building and couldn't walk away from it until I had it finished. Even though I was told, no, it's fine, it's fine, but no, once I start, have to finish. Um, so yeah, got that done, and still I'm 10 minutes late getting this thing started. So yeah, in future when I bring people on, I'll have to remember that it is mobile. So yeah, so I was just I was kind of talking kind of waffling, trying to fill space earlier on, and trying to remember when we first connected, which would have been on the Practical Martial Arts website.
Yeah, probably. Well, Practical Martial Arts website, I started that as the PMAI, Practical Martial Arts Illustrated, in 98, 99, I think.
Yeah.
And then I was working. Oh, where was I working? Yeah, probably 2002 we met. Maybe a little bit earlier, because we had the forums on PMAI.
Yeah.
And then when I kind of moved it away from a magazine format or online magazine format, I then created a whole load of forums and stuff. And I think we probably met on forums, and then you hooked into the PMA side of things as a result of us chatting, because we were on, was it Bushido and Martial Arts Planet as well. Martial Arts Planet.
Yeah, that's right, Martial Arts Planet. God.
Yeah.
Is that even still around?
I'm not sure. I mean, Practical Martial Arts isn't around either.
I know that, yeah.
I mean, that was purely because I had kidney stones, and I got one trapped for about 6 months. And even now, the hosts of that thing only let you pay on a monthly basis. You can just go, look, here's my money. Yeah. And I didn't realize it had gone until about a year after they deleted it, because for some reason it was still caching on their servers. And I was like, why can't I get to this page? And they went, well, we're not hosting anymore. And I was like, what do you mean? I've got these pages. And they were like, oh, sorry. Yeah. But yeah, I was so ill. I was off my face on drugs.
Yeah.
Didn't realize, didn't notice, and just didn't twig.
No, I was thinking, I was working in a transport company at the time, that we were really kind of big into chatting with each other, and I would spend a lot of my day, I was supposed to be working, chatting with you about martial arts related stuff over and back. But yeah, I was thinking it was 2003, maybe late 2002, probably.
Probably, yeah.
Kieran, my son Kieran, who was 19 last weekend, he was born in 2002. So it was about that time I started working in that company. So 19 years ago, man. Wow.
Yeah, crazy, isn't it? Crazy.
Yeah. So like the okay, what you've done a lot of stuff then as well, you know, like we were talking back then in terms of martial arts applications, and it was through you I got connected with Rick Clark afterwards, and the whole Adenku Kai thing and that. And what was your kind of pathway back towards practical martial arts, practical Taekwondo? What was your stepping stone towards that kind of thing?
Right, so I was at university between 92 to 95, and before the web, I was on an academic system called Janet. I can't remember what the acronym means. And there were loads of forums, but they're all completely text-based. You know, if you wanted to get a picture up there, you had to perform magic to do it, and it took ages to print it off and everything else like that. And it was something like the Dragon Forum or something. And all of the big new names in martial arts at the time then, and some of the one who was, you know, Dillman, Rick Clark, and a whole load of others whose names I can't even remember now. I think Steve Webster from the ADK was on there, and everything. And we started talking about pressure points on that, and pressure points are being talked about there. And I then got a book on acupuncture because I needed a map to work out what all these, you know, weird ST12 and, you know, LV1, all that lot meant, because I was just
STD2.
I was literally sat around going, oh yeah, okay, that hurts. Yeah, that hurts. What happens if I do this? Oh, I'll get a bit dizzy, you know, all this kind of stuff. And then I hosted Rick Clark in, first time would have been 95, 96, I think, in Clumpton. Did a massive leaflet thing. Had loads of people saying they were going to come, and then there was a bit of a moratorium placed on that. by the organisation these members were members of.
Yeah.
Which kind of left me in the, it's an embarrassing situation in the fact that there was only like 6 of us turned up to this thing, and at the time was when Rick Clark was hitting hard as well. So he was, look, these pressure points work, whack. Oh yeah, grand, that works. I think I'm gonna have a headache for a year, but that's fine. And so then I kept trying to do my own stuff. I got hold of some karate books as well, because obviously the karate patterns are more original than the Taekwondo patterns, shall we say. And
it's no controversy here. That's okay. You can say that here. This is a safe space for that kind of talk.
Yeah, okay. So let's just say the Shotokan patterns made sense. They always have. I can, at the time when I was doing patterns, and I could probably maybe remember up to one yo now, I don't know. But you'd only have to show me a karate pattern a few times and it stuck. It was weird. I don't know why. It just made sense. And it probably made sense because it was designed from a fighting point of view rather than an aesthetic point of view, or from a get stuffed, we're doing our own martial art, but we'll still be heavily influenced by you point of view that the Koreans obviously implemented. So I started doing that, and I was traveling up and down. At first, it was weekly. I would drive from Exeter to Cardiff to train with Ken Tucker, who's this absolutely brilliant Shotcan guy, who is also
Ken in a long time.
Who's also a member of the ADK. So I was driving up and down there, learning the Shotokan side of things whilst doing Taekwondo. At the time, I was also doing Kempo-Ryu, Kempo-Ryu, karate kickboxing, KRKK, with a guy called Phil Kaywood, I think it was. Names are bad with me. He's called Phil. That was a watered down version of American Kempo from the Irish / Bob Rose school of Kempo, because there was a divergence in the way that American Kempo spread around. So anyway, I was doing this Kempo-Ryu, and in Kempo-Ryu, or Kenpo, American Kempo, the techniques are very flow. They don't kind of just go, but there are a lot of pressure point strikes in there. Pretty much every single strike is to a vulnerable point of the body. And the way that helped me was that in Kempo, because you make contact in every single technique, you learn to dummy, but you have to dummy realistically. So I then started to learn all the realistic ways that someone would react to being hit in a certain place. So that's how I termed the term predictable response. So I knew, for example, let's just go, keep it really simple. If I kick you in the balls, there are going to be certain things that happen. Your knees are going to fold, your hands are going to go down to your groin, your head's going to come forward, you'll fold over, you may or may not fall to the floor, onto your knees and then onto your side, or straight onto your side, and you may or may not vomit. However, as you come forward, your neck's here, your hands have come down, so you're then open to get more strikes. Maybe I'm going to with that technique, I would maybe, I can't even remember the names of the techniques, but they're all phonetic, and it was brilliant because you could kind of, clutching feathers meant someone's trying to pull my hair, for example, really, really simple. Oh, right, you could visualize every single technique because it was named. But if I kick you in the groin and you fold forward, I can then hit your neck, or I can hit the back of your head and, drop you forward, or I can just control your head, bring you down, take you down, pin your arms underneath your body whilst I, do whatever. So that helped me with that aspect. So I just kept on doing my stuff, just kept on trying to work it all out. Opened up my first practical Taekwondo school. That's when we were talking as well. And I was still very much a traditional practical Taekwondo school at that point. So we're doing, we were still doing the 3-step side of things. We were still doing 2-step, 1-step. But every technique had applications as well. So we had a whole set of the syllabus was all about applications. In average, white belt grading was probably taking about an hour and a half at that time. People said it was really difficult, and too much to expect a white belt to learn. But I then had my blue belts teaching 5th dans applications because they knew them.
Mm.
So, you know,
I think I
stretch your white belts from beyond. I think my white belt grading was 10 rising kicks each leg, 10 side rising kicks each leg, 10 press ups, up and down the hall, forward and backwards. Didn't do 3-step 1 to 3 because that was yellow tag, I believe, and a couple of other things, and that was it. That was my white belt. Or,
I
yeah,
remember you
yellow
sent
tag,
me over the syllabus for Practical Taekwondo, and
yeah.
I printed it off in work, and it was about this thick.
Yeah. I broke down every pattern, every technique into doing it. But I mean, that kind of gave me a grounding for what worked and what didn't work. And at the time, I was still thinking, oh, you know, if this is too hard, I kind of want to drop bits. You know, so if I show someone a technique and I can get it, but they can't get it, then it's a crap technique.
Yeah.
Because I don't want people to have to go, you know, oh, you have to study this for 5 years before you understand how to get hip twist properly or whatever. No, these people are coming to me because they want to learn martial arts and they also want to be able to learn some form of self-defense. So what I then went along and became, because I started writing for the martial art magazines at one point, I can't remember when, 2004 maybe, can't remember. I then went and did a course with Jim Wagner of reality-based personal protection. And he was like, if you can't teach it in 5 minutes and they can't grasp it in 5 minutes, he said, I'm not talking about them getting it perfectly right, but if they can't grasp it within 5 minutes, why are you teaching it? Because if it takes a long time for them to remember how to do it, they're not going to be able to do it. And that then, as I kind of progressed also through the patterns in Taekwondo, I started to hate the later patterns because they don't make sense to my head. I don't like them. You know, why am I doing this? Why do I have to do, what was it? Is it a 275-degree spin landing in knife hand guarding block?
Yeah.
Why?
Chung Wu.
Yeah, there you go. Chung Wu. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah.
It's okay. That's what I'm here for. I'm just here to help.
When am I going to, you know, when am I going to do that? So I then took Jim Wagner's principles, as well as my frustrations, and started looking at Sato Jirigi, because I've always said Sato Jirigi and Tronji are the 2 most effective patterns in the entire Taekwondo. They have everything you need for a self-defense system. So I looked at them, Dangun, Dosan, and a little bit of Wonyu. And then I kind of looked at Wonyu and thought, yeah, maybe not, because it's a little bit, it starts getting a little bit fancy. There are some turns and stuff that you don't necessarily need. And hey John, and it doesn't match. It closely matches Nidan, Heian Nidan, or Pinan Shodan if you're doing Wado Ryu, because they swapped them around for some reason. But the Pinans are the originals. There you go. The Wado is the original. The Shotokan followed on. So anyway, I then started looking in depth at those first 4 because I realised that the first 4 rely pretty much on grunt. And by grunt, I mean, if someone throws an arm at me, I block. So what block am I in? You know, either my hand's open or my fist is closed. It doesn't really matter. I'm either in Dosan or Dangun at that point, aren't I? Yeah?
Yeah.
My hand's up. Okay, it's not picture perfect and everything else like that. My hand has come up. So those 2 patterns basically work off the flint response. So they work off predictable, normal responses. And you know, if you look at the way that they were taught as well, you know, you make a fist and you block, or you make a fist and you hit. There's no finesse. I don't need to know what to remember. I don't really need to rely on coordination, because I know when I'm scared or I've got the adrenaline flowing through me, my fine motor skills well and truly go out the window. When I was working the door, I had no finesse as a bouncer. There's just no finesse. I wanted people out, and I wanted people not to hurt me, and I also wanted people not to hurt those around them, because obviously when a fight kicks off and you're in a crowd, fist flying, you get, you know, people are drunk, they don't realize what's going on, they're not situationally aware, they get sent flying, there's glass everywhere, you know, it's just a mess. And as a bouncer, what you don't want is to have a mess. You don't want to have a fight. Really, you just want to be able to go to work, be nice to people, check they're not breaking the law, and go there. And so I just kind of wanted really simple techniques, and it was low block which saved me in a fight. We had finished the night. It was, God, it must have been 2 o'clock in the morning, and this bloke suddenly appears back in the bar. And we were just having a Coke and trying to wind down from doing the night. Because even if you have a fight or don't have a fight, your adrenaline's still up there. I'd already had to, at that point, I'd had an epiphany because I had a toddler. Reagan was a toddler then. And I had a drunk girl, and I realized she was just acting like Reagan. So I treated her like a toddler. Counted from 5 and said, look, you're going through the door, whether you want to be here or not. And the boyfriend there was
5.
Yeah, well, she was like, I can't believe you counted me. I went 5, 4, got to 1, and she was out the door. But that kind of thing, it kind of weighs in your mind because you're always wondering, is something to come back? Am I going to get repercussions? Going to wait for me to come out the club, which is why we were there later. Anyway, this bloke appears, and he says, "Oh, I've spent £100 here. I'm here to finish my pint." And funnily enough, we hadn't finished clearing the glasses. That wasn't our job. And he was an arse. He'd been an arse, and we'd thrown him out earlier as well. And I looked at my mate who was working with me at the time, and we were both quite fresh, as in, we hadn't been doing it for that long. And he'd bottled it because what we'd both done was we'd loosened our helmets. The saying, at the end of a battle, tighten your helmet. Well, we didn't. We'd loosened our helmets. We weren't working anymore. We'd gone from amber or red, if you're using the brag system, which so brag is black, red, amber, green. Green is the goal, is where you're safe, so you can brag about your safety, and black is you're in trouble. So we'd well and truly stuck ourselves into green, and as a result, he was not expecting to now have to fight. We'd finished our work, we weren't getting paid, and we were looking at a fight. So escorted this gentleman to the top of the stairs, which weren't steep, and I gave him a helping hand down them.
That's nice.
Yeah. Well, they weren't steep, so I knew there was no real chance of him kind of tumbling down 30 flight of 30 steps. However, what it did was it kept him moving towards the door because he's trying to keep his balance. Bounced into the wall, grabbed him, went to push him through. He turned round and he did a cross hand grab. So his right hand came and grabbed my right hand. I immediately then dropped a low block and kind of tucked forward, dropped my low block onto his hand, stripped the grip, and he had a proper grip. He was a short dude. He was one of those 50-year-old or mid-50-year-old type guys who's overweight but broad, and there's quite a lot of muscle underneath that from whenever. He looked tasty. Stripped his grip, pushed him out the door, shut the door, locked it. And if I hadn't done that, he'd have pulled me out in the street and we'd have fighting. Yeah. So I then just waited another half hour, came out and found him fighting someone else. So, that was their problem.
Yeah.
Oh no, at that point, he was losing. So it's not like, I kind of had to feel guilty. They were giving him a good hiding at the time. And so I left him to it because, I'm not going to help him. But yeah, that's what it boiled down to. A push to keep him off balance, a low block and a push. Yeah. The same when I was up at another place, Smithart, there was a folk festival, and we'd just been practicing the Wagner knife defenses, full contact, because the Wagner system is full contact. As an instructor, I have to be able to defend myself full contact against an attack from a student so that the student understands that it can work. So we've been doing all these knife attacks, and I had a former Grenadier Guard at the time as a student, and he was 6'5", 6'6", and a rugby player build. And I wasn't looking. I was checking the rest of the class because I said, all right, just stop there for a minute. He attacked me because he wanted to see if it would work whilst I was distracted. So I did these techniques, and it worked. Thank God I didn't get stabbed. So I'm up at this event, and a bloke rocks up, and his mate's got cocaine or speed or some sort of powdery substance around his nose, eyes to the back of his head. He looks like out of a horror film. So I said, sorry, you're not coming in. And they went off. And then the other one, who wasn't high as a kite, came back. And he was wearing a fireman's jacket. It's quite nice, actually. But he put his hand into his pocket and said, Are you saying I can't come in because I'm going to kill you? And again, I just did a simple low block, checked his hand. My other hand went to my radio, and I just squelched it, which was basically the sign for help. And within seconds, he was buried underneath 5 or 6 other bouncers, and I went back to work in the crowd again. But at that point, that one, I didn't have any worries at all because I knew the techniques would work. Which again, and the reason that it worked is because they are gross motor skills. Someone comes at you with a thrust through the abdomen, it's basically cross block or X block. X block, try to X block it, then keep your body away, move off with basically an inward palm slap, and get away, get to their outside every time, keep away from the knife. And so I knew that worked because I'd had 30 students attacking me all night for the last month.
Yeah, and it's funny you said that the X block worked there in that situation, because so many times the X block gets shat on by people. They say, "Oh yeah, that's not going to work against this, or it's not going to work against that." And in some regards, how people apply the X block might be the problem. And then it's like when you're in the real situation and you have to actually do it, it totally changes everything as well. That's what I think when you're pressure testing is, as you've done with the students coming at you constantly. You find all the flaws. I remember doing teaching a knife defense course a few years back, and I had come across the notion that somebody could actually end up grabbing a blade as part of a defense, and there was people in the class that were like saying, "No way, sure, that's crazy. You never grab a blade."
No, that's
yeah. And so then one of the women that was in the class the next week, it was I done like a 4 week self-defense thing for women, and the next week one of the women came back, one of the main ones that told me I was talking bullshit. She came back and said that she had a bit of an argy with her neighbors over the kids, nothing serious, but words were exchanged, and she called to see the mother, this other mother again, called to the door. And the husband answered the door, and he came out and he was carving. It was a Sunday, I presume. So he had the meat knife in his hand, and he was using the meat knife to point with, and she didn't even think about it, and she grabbed the blade.
Yeah.
Now we had been working on how to grab the blade as safely as possible because most blades are single-edged, not double-edged. Everyone thinks that there's guys walking around with commando knives. That doesn't happen.
It's all kitchen knives and screwdrivers.
Yeah, so it's like you're doing the grip like that. So she didn't even think about it. She grabbed the blade, and she said, "I don't know why I grabbed the blade." And as I was as I was grabbing the blade, you came into my head. She said, "It's like I had told you that this is bullshit, and here I am doing it." So there's enough of that happens as well. I feel over the years from teaching alternative pattern applications, again going into proper self-defense stuff, and a lot of that I've done with you. We've done it together, and you guided me, I guided you, whatever, and we've had other friends as well involved in that world. And there's some people tend to poop on everything, whereas like there's some validity in there in what's in traditional motions, and there's some validity in stuff that's actually been tested, where somebody, like, because they've seen somebody that they put some kind of stead into that said, "Oh yeah, you're never going to grab a blade, that's crazy," or "But you can't do that technique because you're going to get caught on the other side." That's because they haven't put the thought into it. And I feel as well that there's a lot of, and I've always said it, there's a lot of self-defense instructors, and maybe even martial arts, not so much self-defense, but a lot of traditional martial arts instructors that have never actually been in a fight.
Yeah.
And then who have never had to pressure test what they're teaching. So like once they get the basics of what they're doing at some seminar that they've done, or a course that they've done, they take that back to their class, and then they try to say, "Okay, look, this is what I've learned," but they haven't fully learned it. And then if it doesn't work out for them in class, that's it then. Well, do you know what? That was poop. So don't do that, guys. You'll get killed. Just, run away. And sometimes you can't run away. So like I always said to people like that kind of come to me with knife situation scenarios and that. and you'd always do that. That thing has become so classically hilarious now. The knife comes towards you and you just turn and run, or you turn to get into a backside kick position, but like you actually go to run away, and that's okay and that's perfectly fine. But one is an awful lot of people are very unfit. I'm one of them at the moment again. But you're probably not going to be able to outrun one of these scumbags, because they tend to be greyhound breeds, and they can probably pelt faster than you.
Yeah.
So there's that situation. There is going to be a time where you're going to get cornered, where what we used to say was, if you're with your kids. When I was bouncing, plenty of time. You've been in Cork, Matt. Cork City itself is small enough. I brought you out to the sticks as well, but Cork City itself is small enough. Yeah.
English. Why? Oh well, yeah. Down here we're all a bit IRA. Yeah, that was brilliant. That was.
Here's my friend Matt. He's amused.
Yeah.
Where's he from? Kerry. But we. But the Cork City itself is small enough. And I was doing door work around the city, in different places, some off licenses and some bars, and I've plenty of times walk around town on a Saturday with my kids and the family, and I'd say to Yvonne, guy over there, chucked him out there last week from the pub, and got a bit kind of hairy, and you see the guy making eyeballs at you, and I'd say, you ain't going to run away if we leave your kids there.
No.
So you need something. You need techniques that you can rely on, that you can say 100%. Somebody throws one of their frequent acts of violence that can be thrown at you, that that someone's throwing that haymaker at you. That's like, yeah, this is just going to protect me here, and I can go from here to that. Here I am, and doing the techniques already without even thinking about it. And so I think I suppose that's the next part of the question I wanted to ask you. In that, I know at the time you got very deep into rating what you were doing in that, and what kind of influenced that for you? So like what kind of, and you spoke about earlier on as well about how if it wasn't simple, if it wasn't KISS principled, then it wasn't going to be good for you to teach it to students or to rely on yourself. So how did you rate those techniques then?
So there's a chap called Bill Berger, who is, I think, still a member of the ADK. He's also, I think, the guy who invented the voice system for the Odeon. So he's a very clever guy. Yeah, so
he is.
Any of this, say whatever you want on the phone type thing. He was one of the four first doing it, and he called it the Berger rating system. And in it had things like practicality, repeatability, redundancy, and all this. And it was actually quite in depth for quite a few kind of things. But what you did was you took a technique and you tried to use it, and then you would rate it. And you would use it against, first off, you'd use it against someone who wasn't resisting. So you'd go with the ideal. What would, if this was a martial arts film, how would this end? It would end with me winning because, hey, that's my fantasy wish fulfillment. A lot of martial arts is wish fulfillment. It's all fantasy. I want to be the Van Damme doing the jump spinning head kick and knocking out 5 guys with 1 kick. Yeah, great, fine. So you then you kind of start to, you go, right, okay, so now I want you to come at me faster, or I want you to come at me slower, I want you to come at me harder, I want you to resist more, and you keep trying to do this technique until in the end, you're basically doing it as full speed and full power as you can, without obviously maybe, I don't know, burying your thumb in their eye socket, because you kind of tend to get through your partners quite quickly if you do that. Ray wouldn't have appreciated that, nor would have felt.
Ray was a hardy man. He went through a lot.
Yeah. Collapse lung. That was quite a good one. But you kind of, you do it as hard as you can within the safety parameters. And obviously the scoring of that is taken into account. So if you say, right, I had to stop, the jab on your eye, but not go in any further, then you would rate it on that, because obviously you don't know what it's going to be like to do that. I've seen videos of a guy thrusting his fingers into someone's eye, and it worked very effectively. So I can go with that because that was an American special forces instructor who was teaching Bolivian special forces, and one of them challenged him to a fight and said, "I don't think techniques work." So this guy, he's just got his hands out like this, and they're moving, and he just went, Phoop. And in that motion,
I remember that video.
Yeah. He put this finger up to this knuckle into the guy's eye socket. Doesn't take the eye out. It doesn't burst the eyeballs. It doesn't do any of the magic stuff that anyone's expecting. However, what it does is finishes the fight there and then. And that guy, all his mates were laughing, absolutely wetting themselves with this. He kind of, like this. The fight stopped. His hands dropped, so he was completely open to whatever else the guy does. And then he collapsed, essentially. And, he went off and sat down, but it must have taken a lot of effort for him to get there, to sit down rather than, I don't know, curl up like a baby and vomit. I think most of us wouldn't have been able to take that. And so, that was, so I can go, okay, having watched that and seen it applied in real life, I can go, right, this technique here, this bit of this technique, I will rate it higher than I might have because I can see that it works.
Yes, showstopper.
Burger rating system. And I used that in my book to kind of explain to people how they could come up with techniques, because you see a lot of people saying, I don't know, the U-shaped block is to grab a staff, or I don't know, disarm a man armed with a rifle that's got a bayonet on the end of it. And I've done bayonet fighting. I've done it with British Army and I've done it with the American Army. And there isn't a chance in hell that a U-shaped block is going to do anything apart from get 6 inches of steel rammed into you at some point. And then you'll get a rifle stock across your face. And maybe
forever the Queen's Guard, huh?
Yeah. So, you're not going to be able to do that. And I was starting to get annoyed with people saying, oh, I've written this book or I've done this and these techniques, I think this technique is for this and it is for this. And it's like, well, have you tested it against someone armed with a mock rifle and a bayonet? Well, no, I can't get a mock rifle. You don't need a mock rifle. You just need someone with a broomstick and an attitude. You tell them, don't stop, try to drive the edge of that broomstick into my gut. And that's what you do. So that's why I wanted the burger rating system in my book, was so that people could kind of understand the process. But it then gradually came to, what is the weakest link in my club, or who is the weakest link in my club, and how can I make this technique work for them? Or when I turned Practical Taekwondo into an instinctive fighting system, was how can I make the technique I taught to them instinctive for them in a way. So basically what happened was I went from, say, 3-step 1 to 3. You have to move forward in 3 punches and you have to do 3 and a 4 on blocks. In Taekwondo, that is. Say, for example, I think that's what, number 1?
I can hardly remember the meter. Yeah.
Anyway,
that's 3 punches anyway. Yeah,
it's the AB side of thing. It's probably moved on from then, but that's what it was. So if you got any of that wrong, then you were marked down. However, what I did was I would say, this is the ideal technique. I now want you to make that technique work for you. So if they had to take a shortcut, or if they had to shorten something, drop something out or whatever, but they still went through the motions or getting it through, then that to me was them taking what I'd given to them and making it their system to work for them. So essentially, even though all my students were technically doing the same techniques and working from the same syllabus, each technique within the syllabus was basically done differently by every single student. Because Biggie Roo and Daddy Roo, I'm what, a foot taller than you? Maybe, I don't know.
At least a foot taller than me.
That's the way it felt. So, I could say, oh, right, yeah, you're going to drop an axe kick on their head. And I could drop an axe kick on your head, but you're not going to be able to drop an axe kick on my head unless, I don't know, you kick me in the testicles, I collapse, you drop the axe kick on my head. So to me, if I said, right, this is the self-defense technique, and it was an axe kick to the head, and it worked for me, and you're one of my students, you kick me in the nads, I drop, you axe kick me to the head, that's a pass. because now you've taken what I taught you and you've made it work. And I applied that with the children I taught. So I was teaching dyspraxic, autistic, other types of disability, mental and physical. And I was teaching them techniques where I was really trying to teach them the motion and the hard skills and the soft skills to make it work for themselves. And they did. You know, we had kids who were being bullied and they applied the soft skills and they stopped being bullied. You know, one kid had to apply the hard skills. He stopped being bullied. That was great. After 6.5 weeks, I had one student come in with a box of chocolates and say, "Thanks very much, Matt. You saved my life." That was after 6 weeks of teaching this system. And all it was step into someone who's attacking with the elbow and put it into their arm. He got attacked by someone, put it into the neck, dropped and knocked him out. Within 6 weeks of me teaching. And that was, you know, an hour and a half lesson twice a week.
Yeah.
So, you know, at that point, I started to know that the system I was teaching was working, and that going the really, really basic Biggie-roo, Daddy-roo, who is the weakest person in this class that I can teach this technique to, and see if it works. And if it didn't work, it was gone. Didn't bother. I'm not going to train it, because there's no point me training something I can't then teach.
Yeah.
I'd rather, because if, for example, I'm injured, then I become the weakest member in that club. So I don't want to be able to use a technique which I can use when I'm my fittest. I want to be able to use a technique I can use when I'm bladdered. I've stepped on a broken glass and I've already been punched in the face 3 times.
Yeah.
You know, that's the point. I need to be able to apply a technique, because, you know, granted, I can do all the soft skills, keep the people away, try to leave the pub, move on to a different venue, etc. But at some point, someone somewhere is going to, you know, close it down, and you're not going to be able to get out of it. You're going to be surprised. You're going to be absolutely filling your pants. You're not going to really want to be there. Your voice is going to be shaking. You've gone from having a nice, happy time with everyone to, oh, I don't want to fight. You know, your voice is tight, your mouth is dry, and you need to be able to use those techniques. So I need to be able to train in techniques which will now take into account the fact I've got a permanently dislocated shoulder because my rotator cuff is knackered. And thanks to the kidney stones, I haven't had the operation I need on it, because I'll be out of action for 6 months. You know, no driving, nothing. I've got kidney stones. I've got a damaged liver. You know, I'm 47. I'm a couple of kilos above my old fighting weight at the original. You know, when I was doing it. So I need to be able to just do stuff that works. That is just, you know, no flim flam, nothing about it, and it's definitely not subtle. You know, it's about as subtle as a brick in the face, which I would use if I had to come to it. You know.
Exactly. And you ages ago, because you talk more than me, which is amazing. And this whole series of things I'm doing at the moment is an exercise in control for me, because I need to shut up and let the people I'm talking to speak. So but you earlier on, you spoke about your book, Practical Taekwondo, Back to the Roots. And you know, I
only buy copies from me.
Actually, John McNally, who's on, I think, still, but anyway, he's around watching this. John was asking, could he get a copy of that? So hard copy.
We're in touch. I'll drop him a message. Yep.
Yeah.
The PDF versions, you know, are online at Amazon. They're still sold by Summersdale, and then they decided, after getting me to print all those books, after a while, that, you know, maybe they didn't want to sell the hard copies anymore.
So, I remember. Yeah, that was nice.
There we go. That's all that's left. You know, out of the original run, I've sold well over, must have sold about 80% now, which is good. But
yeah,
you know, they're a good snapshot as to where I was then as well. And obviously, they're aware, a lot of people still are, you know, how they want to do it. And obviously, I wrote that. By that point, I wrote that book 2005. So I had been doing pressure points for 10 years by that point. 10 years of applications and pattern applications. And I'd also trained with the Dutch national coach in WTF, which is why I put the WTF pattern in, because the WTF form of chambering is
old style
karate, which they don't like to hear, but it's the karate version of chambering. So it's the hand out like that, you know, you bring the hand to the shoulder and you put it out. And for me, whilst you can do this and the crossed arm block, the applications, again, obviously, because they're from the karate, make more sense.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the way that I would not use a cross block, for example, against a front kick. But I would use a lower outer forearm block against a front kick if I applied the turn from Sajo Jurugi or Chonji. Because if a front kick is coming to me like this, straight on, one, I'm going to have trouble judging it, and two, I'm then going to put my forearm onto their shin. But that's not where I'm aiming for it. However, if I turn and the kick is still coming past me like this, I'm now blocking to either the inside or the outside of their ankle, which means I attack their leg. I don't have to have a very strong forearm to hold up against a kick from someone who's really big. So it basically turns into less of a block and more of a pressure point stroke deflection attack, which if I go to the inside, makes them land wide and open, which means I can then step forward with a knee or a front kick to either their ankle to open them up more, or into the groin, follow that up with a punch or elbow and low blocks. So you can literally do Sajo Jurugi against a front kick. And also what you find is people don't attack you with a straight kick. If someone's going to try to kick me, because we're a soccer player or football playing, the kick they're going to do is not straight. You don't kick a football straight. When you come up to football, you basically do a roundhouse, but in a front kick, if that makes sense. So we used to basically teach a yobo kick defense. And a yobo kick, you step to the inside and you block to the inside.
Yeah.
So
right.
Yeah, it's just all that kind of stuff, really.
Yeah, and I remember at the time when you were doing the book, you were you made a conscious decision about your do book as well.
And
how so what was that? Because like if somebody looks at it, people will look at that and they'll see you're wearing karate gi, playing karate gi.
It was karate gi.
That was a very conscious decision at the time, wasn't it?
It was, because if I went ITF, no one from WTF would buy it. If I went WTF, no one from ITF would buy it. If I went TAGB, then only the people in the TAGB would buy it. And at the time, it was suggested to me when I was working for the magazines as I was writing it, that I get people like Ron Sergiu, Mike Dew, and a whole load of other masters to come and be in the book. And again, I decided I wouldn't do that because I'd seen some of the applications that they were putting forwards, which is why I have the lower forearm and inner forearm block, I can't remember the combination, as a demonstration on the Burger Race. It's page 69 if you're looking for it, where they said the low block, you're standing up straight. So the low block was against the front kick, and the inner forearm block was against a punch, and those attacks were coming in simultaneously, and those were being taught seriously as potential defenses because they hadn't bothered testing them, and they've been told that's what it was. I don't know who told them, maybe Grandmaster Che, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. They were told it worked, so they just accepted it, because back in those days when, you know, I don't think what a lot of people don't realize is that when me and you were doing this, we were heretics.
Yes.
You know, we had a lot of people out there who absolutely, and pardon my French, fucking hated us. Because I'd be like, oh yeah, technique, but you know, how does that work? You know, are you really going to do that? You know, okay, I've got a knife. You do a jump spinning kick against my knife. Let's see who wins. And you know, they didn't like that. And it wasn't me being arrogant. It was just me. I've basically come to realize that we have a limited amount of time on the planet. So if I'm trying to learn self-defense, why would I dedicate 5 years to learning stuff that's not going to help me when I could be attacked within the first week of entering any dojang? You know, I want to be able to learn skills that I can transfer to being able to protect myself straight away. the flim flam and all that kind of stuff is great, and it's fun, and it keeps you fit, and it builds on your coordination and conditioning and all the other stuff, but it won't help me defend myself. And so that's why I did this. And the fact that I was questioning what other people had taken for granted was what was annoying them.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the fact I was saying, oh, we should have pressure points. It was the fact that they had gone along with this will work, this is what that does, this is what that does, and weren't questioning it. And now they've got a guy who, when I was questioning this, I was a yellow belt for, oh God, how many years was I yellow belt for? I don't know, 8 years. I was a yellow belt.
Yeah.
Traveled, I was doing other martial arts. I was just dipping in and out, never really grading, never at a club long enough because of, university, work, whatever it was. And I was also going around to loads of different systems, a screamer, Jeet Kune Do, no-gi, submission grappling, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, Kali, Penchak Silat, Tang Sudo, Shotokan, Wado Ryu, Kung Fu, Ninjitsu, American Kempo, Shunryu Kempo, Kempo Ryu, Karate, Kickboxing. And I was looking at it all. Oh, and reality-based. I was looking at all and trying to learn from everything. So I couldn't really dedicate my time to grading. So when they see a yellow belt kind of going, I don't think that's going to work. And they go, well, I think that if you do, I actually had one guy say, and he's a master, so I won't name him, but he actually said, once you've done Chonji 1,000 times, you'll understand. And I didn't want to say I've been doing this for 8 years, so I've probably done it a fair few more times than 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm asking you this question. But we were not popular, and there were people who had been told Taekwondo was the ultimate, and that was what we were told. Taekwondo is the ultimate martial art. We don't need to learn any other martial art because Taekwondo does it all. And then they enter the ring or they enter the MMA cage, they get their asses handed to them, and then they hated Taekwondo. Whereas I was like, well, yeah, but you're trying to take something which is sportified in one way and trying to do a combat sport in another, and you're not actually looking at the techniques within, because you wouldn't be able to apply any of the techniques that we're looking to do, any of the self-defense stuff in the cage. However, you could take the cage techniques and apply them in self-defense. I mean, that was not my argument at the time, the latter part, but since, I've done the Brazilian jiu-jitsu and all that kind of stuff. And yes, you can take cage techniques and apply it in self-defense as much as possible. Unless obviously you're entering a fight with someone who's going to employ the eye jabs and everything else like that, because you are vulnerable when you're trying to grapple, and you've obviously got to drop someone. If you can get a good thigh kick in, then you're going to drop them right there and then, and jobs are good. Which is why we taught thigh kicks, because why wouldn't you? But Taekwondo doesn't teach below the belt, and all of a sudden people are going, well, you're not teaching Taekwondo. No, I am, because if I'm moving forwards from a low block, from walking stance, I'm doing a curve and an arc, and my foot's coming off the ground, everything else like that. That step forward could be a kick. Yeah, but it's not in the patterns. And well, no, because you can't go, okay, first of all, you're going to do your arc, then you're going to do a low front kick, then you do a middle front kick, then you're going to do a high front kick, all just a step forward in a pattern. So they've got to pick one version. And the easiest version is the low one, because it's less tiring.
Yeah. So,
we were I don't know, not paragons. What's the other version? Pariahs.
You're better.
We
Pariahs,
were
yes.
We were pariahs. We were and there are still people bringing out books even now going, learn the secret techniques of Taekwondo. All the hidden art and everything else like that. It's not hidden. It's just not taught. Or enough.
And even at that, like there's no single. I'm sorry about the lighting change now, because I came in here and it was bright and I couldn't be arsed getting up to turn on the light. But there's no book of hidden techniques. Like I have my articles, you have your book that you wrote. Stuart Anzo wrote his books.
Got the videos.
There's videos. Everyone has their own opinions, and what works for them one is valid for them. You know,
Yeah.
once it's been tested and you can produce it. And as you were saying earlier on about, you know, you had an affinity towards forward direction punch, which I do as well. Chanji, me less so with Chanji. You used to love Dosan. I remember you used to big time for Dosan.
Yeah.
I was a Wanyo fan. Wanyo was the basis of what I do. I take forward direction punch and Wanyo, and to me, if I want a self-defense system, that's it, done. So other people could have something else. The only thing is though that, and I was speaking with, I think I was speaking with somebody about this in Messenger last week after talking with John McNally. Somebody said, "Oh, I really like Yulguk." I was like, "Well, okay, you can really like Yulguk, but once you get up to Yulguk, stuff gets complicated in the Chang Hun patterns." As you were talking about, you know, with Chunji and or not Chunji, with Chungmu, and you're jumping around and landing on the spot kind of thing. That there's this more complication in those forms as you're going up along, and when it comes to self defense, we really only need those first 4-5 patterns. Well, if you take forward direction punch as being a pattern, or even forward direction block, because you know the ITF use forward direction block as well. That's okay. And I think that it doesn't matter for me personally. I'm not bothered other people telling me criticizing what I'm doing. I just know that, like, you know, what I've done, that I haven't been kind of diving into this kind of thing for a while again, but I don't mind what people say about what I'm doing. I just like them to also be willing to have what they're doing questioned and tested and pushed.
Yeah.
Once they're doing that themselves, I don't care. Because as you said, and you referred as well earlier on about the Biggie-Roo and Diddy-Roo. People might say, "What's he on about?"
Yeah.
That came out. That for people who are watching this at some stage later on, or even right now. Hey, Dave Price, how are you, man? That came from. We'd been chatting for a good while on the internet. Never spoke, I don't think. Did we have phone calls? I can't remember.
I'm not sure. I think it's before you came over, and then when you came over is when we cemented Biggie-Roo and Diddy-Roo.
Yeah, because we were out in your shed.
Yeah,
or was it Ray's shed? I can't remember.
Garage. Yeah,
Ray's garage. Yeah, and you were like, "I do this, and I do this, and I do this." And I goes, "Okay, well, I'm gonna have to do it this way." And you were like, "Why?" Because I was like, "Because I'm fucking smaller than you." So
yeah.
you were like, "Ah," and that's where that came from. So yeah, you like even something simple like that. When it comes to even step sparring, and Anthony, our friend Anthony there is really asking. Anthony Russell is asking about step sparring a lot, and I may even bring Anthony on for a chat about step sparring at some stage. One of these Wednesday night chats. You know, step sparring doesn't necessarily adjust to the person. Like like if you're doing a middle, I'm in darkness now, but if you're doing a middle section strike, it's actually supposed to be shoulder height. So, you know, but if I was attacking you doing those step sparring techniques, I would have to attack above my head height.
You become, yeah.
So there's the question: do I attack a zone on your body that's more at my shoulder height, or do I adjust my strike to? To be honest, a head or neck strike from me to you wouldn't be as effective as a body strike, because the higher I reach, the less the power is in my technique. So
and the time I've got to avoid it.
Yeah, exactly. So like, you know, that I never, that was something I had an issue with step sparring in the early days as well. That, you know, as you said, you know that if you kick somebody in the balls, they're going to have a certain reaction. And then it should be conversely the same, that if you punch somebody in the face, there's a certain reaction. If you hit somebody in the arm, in the forearm, in the high part of the forearm, there's a certain reaction. If you're small and you're against somebody tall, there's a certain reaction. And it's the same for somebody tall trying to fight somebody small. It'll be a lot easier for me to pick up somebody who's taller than me because my center of gravity is much lower.
Yeah.
And I've done it loads working in my jobs over the years. No problem, pick up monsters and drop them on their backs. Like the people go, "Oh my God, how did you pick that guy up?" He's about to say, "But that's what judo is. That's what jiu-jitsu is. It's based on
Lower
leverage."
center of balance. You're low.
Yeah.
If I was going to try to throw you, I don't know. I'd probably pop both kneecaps now, because if for me to get my hips beneath your hips and then tucked into yours, I am going to be squatting probably below my knees.
Yeah.
Do that potentially, because obviously I'm going to take into account your body movement and all this kind of stuff. So that's why I then looked at not doing that and using walking, how you curve in with walking stance and low kicks. So I went with trips, knee locks, and sweeps, because I thought I can't teach someone to throw, because I would not be teaching them to do it correctly, because I'm teaching it from a big person. So so I need to be able to teach something that everyone can use straight away. So I didn't go with throws. And also what I found with teaching throws is you teach people to break fall. If you teach people to break fall and you teach people how to throw, you start building in reactions to techniques which aren't realistic. So like with Aikido, someone twists your wrist, they forward somersault over it and land on the ground. Well, if I twist someone's wrist on the street and they do a forward somersault and land on the ground, I am just going to applaud them, because that's not going to happen. What will happen is if I shove someone's wrist in towards their stomach, and twist it around, I'm going to get a twisted reaction. I'm not going to get them falling. If I take someone's arm like this and drop my weight over them that way whilst I'm doing it, they're not going to backflip. They're not going to break fall or anything else like that. Their shoulder is just going to rotate whilst they're standing up, and there's going to be crunching noises. They may or may not then fall to the floor. But what I'm not expecting them is to be able to break fall out of it. But if you teach break falls and you teach techniques that then start using break falls, you then start getting out of the the realistic side of things. So again, that's another reason I just didn't teach throws and break falls. I taught break falls on how to land if you're pushed and shoved, and if you have to jump or drop, whatever else like that, but not as a result to a technique. I never taught, if this comes, you do it, you do this. And so I didn't really teach throws, because a lot of the time, if you're teaching throws, you have to throw people in such a way that they can break fall. And break falling when you're being thrown by someone who's expecting you to break fall is quite instinctive, and you will break fall. So they may end up on the floor, but you're not going to get the result you want. If I'm going to throw someone, I'm going to stop the technique halfway through the throw and drop them. That's what the original techniques were, at which point they shouldn't be able to break fall. Their head should be just driving straight into that ground. They
were breaking fall with their skull.
You break the fall with everything but a well-placed break fall. So that was one of the reasons that Practical Taekwondo and also the instinctive fighting system never had throws. And also another reason they didn't have throws was because the techniques I was trying to teach were designed to not look like martial arts. Because you have the pre-fight, which is where you're trying not to get into a fight. You have the fight, and then you have the post-fight. And the post-fight, where I have actually been in court after a friend of mine was at university. There was a gang came into a pub we were frequenting at the time. They came up to a friend and said, "Do you want to be glassed?" He kind of went, "No." And then we didn't think about anything about it. We're talking, what was this, 92, 93. So I was still not, yes, I'd done Taekwondo, but I wasn't into any of the reality self-defense. Hadn't really been taught self-defense. There you go, failing at Taekwondo, hadn't been taught. I was always told not to use it, because we should never use Taekwondo.
Find it out.
Anyway, so we're then walking along, and there's a smashing sound, and all of a sudden my mate is like, "Oh my God," and he'd been glassed. 64 stitches to the head it was, and things kind of went downhill from there. Let's just say I think by the end of it there was something like 45 people involved in the brawl. And the gang that did the glassing pitched a friend of ours through a 15-foot plate glass window.
Nice.
And then came out with the glass and were frisbeeing it into the crowd. You know, we're talking a whole new level of thug. 3 days later, they glassed another guy and took his eyeball out. Who I met, actually, funny enough, he was another student. He'd heard a fight going on and said, "What's going on?" And they just took his eye out like that. Boom. Long story short, we end up in court, and I'm having to defend the fact that I did a kidney kick to the guy who actually ended up hitting me on the back of the head with a brick, giving me a concussion. Oh, I also got a black eye as well. I thought I'd been glassed because I got hit so hard in the eye that my contact lens fell out into my cheek, and I thought my eye was on my cheek from the pain of the blow. So you can imagine kind of the adrenaline going through. It was a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. But what was worse was being in court trying to justify the techniques I'd thrown then. I threw a roundhouse kick, and I didn't even throw the ball. It was a top foot roundhouse kick to his kidney. And you know, that was really bad. You know, you're talking 2 days of trials. Absolute nightmare. You don't. Everyone goes, "Oh, be judged by, was it judged by 12 rather than carried by 6?"
Yeah, 6,
No,
yeah.
the world drops out of your ass when you're in court and you've got someone, and all of a sudden you realise if you say the wrong word, you may well end up being sued or prosecuted for what you've done. So again, I tended not to want to teach throws because they look like martial arts.
Yeah.
And if you look like a martial artist, then the assumption still is you should have been able to subdue them. It takes 8 coppers to subdue 1 criminal. Why should I, as a martial artist, be able to subdue a criminal on my own without breaking skin or a sweat? It's not happening.
It's the Superman syndrome, isn't it? You know, that's like,
Yeah.
but Superman, you didn't have to kill them all. You know, so
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah, whereas, you know, sorry, but under the law of self-defense, I can do everything and anything it takes up to the point of stopping the attack. You know, anything reasonable. So again, for me, throws, not practical from my side of things, because from a follow-up point of view, if you're shown to throw someone and you throw them onto a table full of glasses and they nick an artery, then you're facing manslaughter. Doesn't really matter if it's self-defense, because you know, it's just one of those things, and you don't want to be in that situation. So sweeps, trips, knee locks, and that is really keeping it down to the diddy route. That is, because it gets rid of the throw aspect at all, because then you don't have to worry on someone, someone who's not necessarily got the upper body strength or got the leg strength, or might have a bad back. Again, you know, you've got to take into account the lowest common. Any technique you teach in self-defense has to take into the account, can I get my mum to do this? And that is it. Can my mum do this? Can I see my mum doing a hip throw or a cross buttock throw or a wheeling throw or a tominagi throw in a self-defense? No. Well, then I'm not going to do it. If they go, "Oh, my mum's a black belt," then you just go, "Shut up. Can you expect that woman over there who's watching your class to do it? Can you expect one of your dinner ladies to do it?" And if your dinner lady can't do the technique, don't teach it.
Absolutely. I just want to, just before we wrap up, because you know, I know we started late, but we're up to about the hour now. But I was going to let people know what you've been doing since Back to the Roots, because you kind of changed direction, and have been
massively actually. Picked up a few injuries, like I say, dislocated rotator cuff. So I actually ended up closing the school because it was just too painful to teach. And at the time, I was teaching more traditional Taekwondo aspect, because I just wanted, you know, the security blanket of being graded by no names. Only it then turned out one of the no names is now doing, I think he's doing a life sentence. So I wish.
Oh yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah, that took us all by surprise. But yeah, so, and as I've got older, I've started looking at weapons. So, you know, the walking stick with a hook, a proper horn on the end, a bit of tomahawk training, You know, the kind of weapon. When I mean weapons, what I mean is tools that you have around your house anyway. You know, you're going to be able to use them. And I like the idea of, you know, fighting with a tomahawk. It's a bit fun. I tried a screamer, but a screamer again, there's too much stuff that I don't want to learn. I just want to go, right, okay, why? So, for example, one of my questions was, why aren't we hitting to the hand? Oh, well, we just teach to hit to the stick. But if you teach me to hit to the stick 20,000 times and someone attacks me with a stick, I'm going to hit to the stick. Whereas what I need to be hitting is to the hand, because I don't want him holding that stick anymore. Yeah. So, you know, I kind of looked at it and, yeah, it's fun doing all the, you know, the twiz and all this. And I've done a screamer for years, but again, not what I wanted to. So, you know, old man Roo now, basically, really pared down the techniques. I sometimes work with Bob, you know, with the shoulder, you know, taking the shoulder into account. Yeah. But, you know, a walking stick is legal. You can take a walking stick onto a plane. You know, you're not going to be told you can't. Or if you do, you know, whatever, it's just a walking stick. I haven't lost anything, have I? You know, keys, etc. So really, because of the limitations caused by my kidneys and my shoulder, I've really pared down everything now. So when I do Bob, it's with the kind of those things in mind, you know, and so I'm also relying on soft skills a lot more. It's the soft skills which get the spot. You know, recently we've got a dog. Obviously, I'm not going to say the dog's going to be any help, but right now there are stacks loads of stories going around that people are nicking dogs. People are reporting vans up and down, even in this area. My mum got scoped out walking my dog. He's a puppy, so he's still intact, and he's a Labrador. Yeah. You know, so they're worth money. He's intact. Obviously, they can use him to breed if they grab him. So again, there's a lot more. What do I take on my walk with me? What can I use whilst I'm on my walk? Where do I walk to? Do I let my girls walk the dog? No, I don't. Do I let the girls walk my dog with me? Yes. And also that pairs into the fact that, do I let my puppy run up to someone and jump all over him? No, I don't. Because, you know, from a self-defense point of view, if my dog scratches them or draws blood, it can be taken to be a dangerous dog. You know, I want to protect myself, and I want to protect my puppy from just being a puppy. You know, he's a Labrador. Yeah. You know, they think everyone is designed to love them. So, you know, all my soft skills are constantly at use, and it's my soft skills that I'm using. I'm hoping to get another type of driving license. So again, I've got to start using my soft skills to, is that person going to be stepping out? Is that person going to be braking hard? You know, I've always been a bit rubbish at the 2-second rule, but now I'm a lot better at that. You know, I'm coming up to a corner. What's going to be on that corner? Can I tell by looking at the trees how far that corner goes around? Or am I then looking at trees going off that way with yet more telephone wires, which means that I'm now entering an S-bend or anything else like that. So all the skills I've taught in my system, I'm still applying throughout everything, even down to COVID. Oh, look, there's a beaker, there's a chinner, there's a no masker. You know, how, you know, I need to get to that thing. Do I go around them? Yes, I do. You know, if someone's jogging and they're breathing out all over the place, I don't know if they're tested or not. And yes, it might be outdoors, but do I take that risk? No, because I've had COVID. You know, I've got long COVID. So again, that also restricts me. I've got joint pain in my knees, my elbows. I get tired sometimes. I get the cough back. I get chronic headaches. And, you know, this is over a year ago, because I basically ran a community support in the first lockdown. Yeah, you know, we all thought it'd be over by Christmas, didn't we? So we ran this community group with up to 150 members at one point. You know, and so that's how I got my COVID, was because I was out delivering medicines. I was going down to the shops buying food for other people, and this is before we were told to wear masks. Yeah. You know, so now do I go out without a mask? No, I've got a mask in my pocket. I've got a mask in my car. Will I continue wearing a mask after this? Well, yes, because I've not had flu. I've not had a cold. You know, I've not had, you know, will I continue washing my hands? Yes, I've not had stomach bugs. You know, stomach bugs are on a massive fall because people are washing their hands. And so, you know, if you start taking your martial arts and you apply your self-defense, your brag, black, red, amber, green, all these theories to your life, it will make you safer.
Yeah.
You know, who would have thought I'd be applying my martial arts skills to a pandemic?
Well, they're like, they should be life skills, you know. There's so many martial arts clubs spout on about. I was a professional. I was full-time professional teaching martial arts, and you know that whole world perpetuates this idea that the martial arts school is going to teach your child how to be a better human,
Yeah.
and give them life skills. But generally they don't. Other than
Well,
yes or no,
on
sir,
that,
3 bags full, sir.
yeah, on that being a better human, I have seen any number of martial arts clubs and schools complaining about the fact that they can't train and they miss training with everyone. I haven't seen one martial arts school helping the community during the lockdowns.
I don't know. I haven't noticed it. I don't know. And if it has
me,
happened, I don't know. But
yeah,
no,
me and my wife,
I haven't seen it.
me and my wife decided, right, we'll help our road. And then we realized there was nothing going on in our area. So by the end of it, I think we were helping something like 4,500 households.
It was crazy.
So that, you know, that could be anywhere between, let's just say, take the average 10,000 people minimum. You know, we leafleted it. We dropped over 5,000 leaflets in 2 days using our people. But never once have I seen a martial arts club go, right, guys, we've got, I didn't know how many students you've got, really. We are going to help. We're going to do a community drive. This is what we're going to do. We can't train right now, but let's get out there. Let's help the community. No, I saw them pissing and moaning about the fact they couldn't get to their classes.
Yeah.
Which,
you know,
we take an oath in Taekwondo to be a better person and to help the world, I found really surprising and disappointing. I mean, there may well be clubs out there that are doing it.
Yeah.
But
if they are, I'd like them to comment on this video. Let us know.
Yeah.
Let us know. Put it in the comments.
But, you know, what we'll get the exceptions. And it's always the, you know, not all men. It'll be not all Taekwondo clubs or not all martial art clubs are like that. But at one point we had over 60 martial art clubs in Exeter. As you'd think, as considering I was speaking to the council and, you know, councillors and MPs about this, I would have been made aware or become aware of martial arts clubs that were doing things. Nothing. Absolute tumbleweed.
Yeah.
Missed opportunity.
Well,
I mean, what a marketing opportunity. Our club of 60 students is out there helping people. You know, if you want to take the cynical route. But,
absolutely.
Yeah. So never mind. Yeah, there you go. That's my rant. It's been bugging me for over a year, really. You know, we've got 60 martial art clubs in Exeter. So let's say a minimum of 10 students. That's 600 people who could have been out on the streets helping those that need.
Yeah. And that was a part of political broadcast brought to you by Practical Taekwondo.
Yeah.
Listen, man, I think it's time we knock this on the head. It's been really good chatting with you. We haven't had a chat properly since I was last over. When was that? Christ.
Oh, God, years ago, mate, now.
5 years ago?
Yeah, before it all went wrong.
What's that?
Before it all went wrong. Yeah.
That's it, yeah.
I think it's more than 5 years.
Is it? I can't remember. Well, Anthony Russell might remember because I went over to do his grading.
Oh, yeah. Anthony's grading, yeah. Yeah, maybe five.
Yeah. But if anybody, how many of those books you've left in hard copy, by the way?
Couple hundred.
Average.
I'm just looking at yeah, no, I got yeah, I got a couple.
Okay,
hundred.
so if any, like, the book is fantastic. The illustrations are really crystal clear, and very well laid out. The paper grade is absolutely fabulous. You put so much thought into, like, you know, the cover, but the actual page, turning the page is like, you know, it's an experience in itself. You use this really lovely.
Yeah. For that paper. That paper is guaranteed to never stick to itself.
Yeah.
So you'll never get, you know, when you kind of open up a book and the pages are stuck and you got the text. No, this is like, at the time, this was premium paper.
Yeah. No stick zone with Back to the Roots.
So, yeah.
But if anybody wants to buy Back to the Roots hard copy now, they need to go through you. So anybody that sees this video, Matt has already commented on it, so you'll see Matt's profile. I also shared some pictures from the page that you had set up for Practical Taekwondo Back to the Roots. So guys, you can go through those spaces there, and Matt will hook you up with a hard copy. It's really worth it. As we've said already, it's a snapshot of what he was doing at that time. I wish I wasn't as lazy and put my What's the Point articles together into something back in the day. Because if I do that now, it's going to be a completely different animal, probably. In some ways, might be similar, but in other ways, it'll be different. But at least you have that there, and it's a treasure. And,
tell you what, I'll do a special deal. £10 if you quote "What's the point" when you contact me. £10 plus postage.
Excellent.
It's obviously postage around the world right now is just getting stupid. So £10, British pounds plus postage anywhere in the world. And if you want a message, I'll do a message to you as well. I'll dedicate it to you.
Fabulous.
I actually had one guy say, I said to him, "What do you want the message to be?" Because I always put a message in, and he went, "Whatever." So
something, whatever.
yeah, Dave, whatever. Signed, Matthew Sylvester, and he absolutely loved the fact that I just went whatever. But yeah.
All right, man. That's fantastic. And look, I really do hope you ship some of those books. But this is a casual chat. I'm loving this thing. I done it last week. It's with Master John McNally. Done it with you this week, man. I don't know who I'm going to chat to next week, or if I will. I'm doing it so casual. But I hope people are enjoying it. I hope you enjoyed the chat tonight, Matt. And say hi to Karen and the girls. Hopefully, I'll get back over to England at some stage in the next year or so. I know John McNally wants me over there to do some ITC stuff.
Cool.
And so I could probably spend a good month in the country of England and still not get to see the people that want to see me and they want to see as well, because I've got cousins over there as well, and family. So but anyway, look, I'm going to let you go. Thanks so much for having this chat with me.
No worries.
And talk to you again soon, man.
All right, buddy. Keep safe.
Take care.
Cheers. Bye.